unmute stuff. And I like to always start off by having you introduce yourself. And that way we get the nice sound bite and then just take it from there.
Sure, sure. I'm Joshua Lisec. I am the ghostwriter. They call me not just a ghostwriter, but ghost persuader. I've ghostwritten, working on my 56th, 57th, and 58th books that I've ghostwritten. That's on top of thousands of other pieces of content from articles, emails, social media posts, sales pages, all that good stuff. And as I mentioned, I'm also a ghost persuader. My job is not just to help people find the right way to say what they want to say using their language, and it does, right? It does. But my job is to help each author, each client identify the best way to say it, whether it's a speech or it's a book, 300 words, 3 hours, a 30-word tweet.
I love that. So your whole job is learning how to say what somebody wants to say in a way that's going to be most beneficial to them, and that usually means makes the most money. So you're not just there to make them feel good, you're not just there to talk them up. You're there to say what they need to communicate in a way that gets them more clients and opportunities and make their bank account number go up.
Exactly, exactly. Unlike other ghostwriters, I see my job as not simply writing something for the client that they like, which is a fundamental. It's more so writing content for them that gets the job done. And that job is different for each client, whether they want to have a book that establishes their authority, demonstrates their credibility, and builds perceived expertise. That's one job. Another job is using a book to pre-handle sales objections so that they have to deal with less of those when they're engaging in lead generation activities, and then close clients a lot easier for a lot higher price. And then there are people that I come and ghostwrite all of their online course material. And their job is to make a nice little chunk of change from a small list or from a small audience that more than pays for itself, and then enables them to work directly with people who say, okay, I loved your course. I need more help. Can you just do it for me? You're hired. $5,000 a month. Get a few of those, and it's a good time.
I love that. And your job is to do all that without you getting in the way, right? Because a ghostwriter is somebody who appears to be somebody else because it's the author's name on the book, it's the author's photo on the book, it's the author's story and idea, but it's all executed by you. So how are you making it not yours, even though it's you writing?
Yes, yes. I am a unique ghostwriter in that I see my job as acting in print because I have professional acting background, doing dinner theater, improvisation, scripted shows, little stand up here and there, and also doing performances that involved music, instruments, guitar, piano, etc. So the idea of embodying an authentic personality and then making people think something or feel something or engage or at least just say they want to pay attention. I'm used to doing that when the stakes are highest, when you're live in front of people who are watching you and like, come entertain me, right? Ghostwriting is actually much easier because acting is much, much harder, and I'm damn good at acting from that
I love
perspective.
that.
And I know because I literally had to help people pick themselves up off of the floor of the aisle because they laughed so hard the chair broke.
That's
So
awesome.
that's what I see ghostwriting as, is it's acting in print. And going back to the very beginning of my career, Jonathan, everybody has been telling me, Joshua, I can't even tell I work with a ghostwriter. It sounded exactly like me, but it's the best way I could have said it.
That's great. Now, there's an angle I really want to dig in with you about, and this is gonna be insider baseball. So we might lose everybody, or this might be the best episode ever. The angle is in the magician world, in the mentalist world, a bad magic show is usually the result of you back up a couple years and the magician learns a particular sleight of hand move or a technique, and it's just fun to do. It feels neat, or there's just something interesting about it, that the technique or the method is interesting to the performer. Then they go, well, oh, I love this technique. I love this move. So what tricks can I do with it? Then they find the trick that that move can make happen. And then they put that trick into their show. And then their whole show is nothing but those tricks that are interesting to perform. But those tricks are usually awful, boring, make no sense, are not engaging in any way. The performer is not good at connecting with the audience of performing the routine. They're just really good at executing the technique that's interesting to them. So when you go from method to build your show, that's almost a guaranteed failure. The best performers, Chris Angel, David Blaine, Copperfield, anybody who has held your attention and really wowed you, started with the end in mind of going, what do I want my audience to experience? What would be so stunning and so amazing that my name should be in lights. My name should be internationally recognizable. What could I do that would make that impact? Okay, well then if I could walk through the wall of China, now that would be cool. Then you work backwards from there going, if I were going to apparently walk through the wall of China, the Great Wall of China, what would I need to be able to do? Oh man, that looks really hard. And then you spend 2 years practicing what you need to practice to make that thing happen. So the worst experiences start with the method. The best experiences start with the end in mind and then work backwards. And you already touched on it a little bit of, okay, what's the intent? What's the job that this book needs to do for my client? So what's your writer's experience with that? When a client comes to you and goes, I got this great hook, I got this great tagline, and I'm going to build my book around that, and they're putting the cart before the horse. Walk me through how often that happens, how you help talk them off the ledge, how you persuade them that this is exactly the bass-ackwards wrong way to do it, and here's the right way to do it. So I really want you to dig into that piece of your work and your clients and the content that you create for them.
Yes, yes. Everyone who's creating a book, an ebook, a course, some sort of an information product that they want to sell, and they want to get someone to help them get it done so that they can sell it and then sell other things after that. They're always starting with something, an idea, a premise, a hook, a title, subtitle, and 9.9 times out of 10, it's the wrong one. It's the wrong one. And the reason why it's wrong is not that it doesn't read well or that it's not clear. There are some titles that people have said, hey, my book's gonna be called this. Like I know what it's about. But here's the problem. There's no answer to the question, what's in it for me? As in me being the reading public. And they say, well, what it really means is, and then they go and explain what the title means. And I says, okay, take that explanation and truncate it into a title and have that be the title instead. I like to use different tools and frameworks that have proven across time with my clients. And one of those, I credit a fellow named Tony Ulwick, who wrote What Customers Want. He's a founder of Stratogen and the creator of this thing called jobs to be done theory, which basically means this. Customers buy products or hire people for services to get jobs done in their lives and in their businesses. And the tool that they choose to get that job done is the one they perceive is going to get it done the best way they want to get it done. So that means we just introduce a bunch of factors. Some people want the fastest tool to get the job done the fastest. Some people want the cheapest tool or the tool that makes them feel the most confident in the experience, right? And that introduces forms of value. There's functional value. This tool is going to get the job done the best, most effective, right? There's emotional value. You're going to feel confident holding this tool in your hand. You're going to make it happen. And then there's financial value. It's the cheapest, or it's the best run for your money, or it seems like it has the best value for your money, right? Not necessarily the cheapest, but you're getting a lot for what you're paying for here. And all three of those forms of value ought to intersect in your title and in your subtitle. More than that, though, you should be producing an information product, book, course, etc. You must produce one that makes people go, oh, wow, I haven't seen that before. That's a new and exciting tool. Probably one of the biggest issues I see is everyone who has an idea that they feel like they want to run with, the title, the premise of the book, I read that book before. I talked to somebody the other day who wanted to write this, health and wellness book to create your authentic health journey. That book's been written 5,000 times by people a lot more famous than you. You have nothing to say on that topic, at least. So then let's unpack, well, what unique value can you say? Here's what I can share with you that you've never seen before. It's like, oh, wow. Okay. And then how do we communicate that value? Well, we can communicate it in functional, emotional, and financial language, getting it across very vividly what it does for you. That's how persuasion happens. There's a book that I ghost wrote that was rated the #4 best persuasion book of all time amongst the top 100. Voters included Tim Ferriss and Warren Buffett. It's a pretty cool little story. But one of the reasons why that book did so well is because it's completely unique take on persuasion, which was persuasion is not something you do to someone. It's something they do to themselves with the information you give them. And so the information that you need to give your customers to persuade them to hire you for your services or to buy your book is, here's how stinking valuable this is going to be for you, and it's value you've not seen before. Come buy this thing. I'll give you an example of this. One of my award-winning authors has a book that is about agile project management. Now, agile project management is not very sexy. It comes from a lot of software companies where they throw together a minimum viable product and then they put it in front of users and test it and get feedback and start to get the revenue coming in, and they iterate and reconfigure and improve and update based on that feedback from customers. So here's what happens. He said, the author, his name is Ramesh Danta, one of the few clients I don't have a non-disclosure with. In fact, I used to, Jonathan, but he was so happy with the book, he said, Joshua's my ghostwriter. Yay, go hire him.
That's awesome.
Wonderful times. Wonderful times. So I will bring all of this together, jobs to be done theory, the value, the persuasion happening to yourself, and this Ramesh character with this one story, with this one example. He came to me, Joshua, I want to write a book called Agile Entrepreneurship Principles, something like that, right? I'm like, no, you don't. And it was because you have no idea what that does. You don't understand the functional value. What jobs is it actually getting done? You have no idea. It's a novelty, right? Emotion value. I have no idea how to feel about that because I only know what it is. And the financial value, I don't know how this is going to help me earn more money faster and save on business expenses, save time. You have no context for any of that value. Like it's literally absent. So here's what I did. We got down, Ramesh and I, and we said, okay, what is your unique promise of value? In that, what do you advise people to do that they have not seen before, that they have not been told before? And he said, well, Ramesh wanted to take the agile software project fundamentals and apply them to a business idea, side hustle idea. That could be about freelance graphic design or your drop shipping product or e-commerce or cold email outreach services, just any dog walking services, right? Any business idea you could have. He wanted to apply it to that and say, you will only be doing the things that get you paying customers. The only prerequisites you will be doing are those which will ultimately result in you getting a customer and then keeping that customer. Like you'll do nothing else. I mean, it's 80-20 rule reimagined, right? But more like 99-1, right? What is that one thing that's going to get you the most bang for your time? Because nowadays it's not just money you're having to deal with in terms of financial value. It's time, because time is money. And we knew that going in, that people had heard about, the fastest way to make a great living and 7 days to profits, and this sort of like generic language. It didn't feel like a system. It felt like a bunch of advice that they put a bow on and said, look how amazing this is, without really having a system or a method or a step-by-step process to back it up. So we knew we needed to introduce a proven system, as in a step-by-step system with multiple components. You do all of these things, you get the result, not a bunch of generic ass tips. People are done with that. So that was the first thing we needed to be unique within the promise. It's a proven system. It needs to be time-bound in such a way that people could say, okay, it's going to be worth my investment of time. I'm going to get ROT, return on time investment into this because it's going to be pretty quickly. And I'm going to feel great about following this process. So you got the functional, emotional, and financial value all working in there. And we got to the final title and subtitle by this question. I said, Ramesh, how long does it take people to follow each of these steps in your system? He said, we calculated it, and about 30 hours all added up. And I said, do you see what you just did there? The title of your book, Ramesh, is The 60-Minute Startup, a proven system to start your business in 1 hour a day and get paying customers in 30 days or less. The book reached number 193 out of all 6 million books on Amazon. Not only that, but it won literally the most prestigious award for independent authors. It beat out tens of thousands of books in the marketing category as awarded the number 1 marketing book of all of 2020. Pretty remarkable feat. And the best part about it is that the judges, the literary professionals on the panel, said for the first time they had read a book that made them feel like they could actually start a business. All the other entrepreneurship and marketing books that are out there, this isn't for me. I can't do this. But for the first time, I can actually do this. So you see how functional, emotional, and financial value are all intersecting into the perfect title and subtitle. And that, may I say, Jonathan, is the best way to say it.
I love that. I love that. And that's part of one of the courses that you've put together is the best way to say it. And how is it that this is so meta, it drives me nuts, but how do you find the best way to explain to people that saying it the best way is the best way to invest your time and energy? Because everybody has that belief that, oh, my idea is so good, it will sell itself. And people don't recognize how essential communicating that value is, because most people have zero context, right? So how do you convince people that that one skill is the foundational skill of communicating value, whether it is a tweet, whether it is an e-course or a book or asking somebody out on a date? That's all communication skills. And that is the one skill to rule all skills. So how do you get that across to people who think they already know the best way to say things because they know how to talk a lot?
One sentence. If the value of what you're offering cannot be perceived instantly, is it that valuable? That's, of course, I play on the whole, does a tree fall in the forest? Does anyone hear it? Ha ha. Did it actually fall? Ha ha. But that one sentence is a great way to, it's a test, right? Can you pass the instant value test? The title and subtitle I gave of, it literally requires no explanation. You know exactly how it's going to help you, exactly what you get. And you're probably willing to spend $20, even if you have never heard of the author before. Which is a lot of times that's who's coming to me is the breakout stars of tomorrow. Yes, I've ghostwritten for some public figures and celebrities, yada yada yada. They have a different take. Their situation is, I want to build my credibility, not dismantle it in public and embarrass myself and get canceled. So they have some different concerns. But the breakout stars who know their stuff is better than the reigning titans that everyone has, is kind of the go-to person, the one that gets all the speaking gigs and the consulting offers and is on all the podcasts. Like, I know my stuff is better than theirs, but I need to prove it, right? And you cannot prove it if the value of what you're offering is not easily perceived. And I use the word perception because perception is reality. You may know how valuable your product is, its uses, how it makes people feel while they use it and experience the results, and then how much time and money it makes or saves for them. You may know that, but unless you can use the exact, precise words that are easily understood and instantly digested into the conscious, past the conscious into the subconscious mind, right? I'm very big on using principles of hypnosis called hypno writing inside of any message, so that you can go past right past the filters and make it clear exactly what the value is. And when I'm talking to an author, interviewing them for their book, I'm talking past what they want to say to why is it valuable that they're saying this. And a tell for this is whenever an author says, in the opening chapter, I want to get across this really important message, Joshua. It's very important that you follow my system to get this result step by step. And most ghostwriters say, okay, well, type it out. It's super important that you follow that, blah, 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 right? They just type it out. Those of us who have studied and been paid to work in the world of hypnosis and subconscious persuasion know that something like it's important is a tell rather than a show. How can you show that it's important? Because it's important to you. It's like, oh, that's abstract. It's hypothetical. There's literally no place to put it's important in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind cannot process abstract information. It needs to be, I guess you could say, decoded into something that is concrete, visual. I can see that on the shelf, right? And something like it's important. If you tell me why it's important, now that will allow me to realize for myself, it's important that I follow the system step by step.
Right? That should be the natural conclusion
Yes.
of what you're showing somebody. But just starting at the end isn't going to help the listener get there. And yeah,
Exactly.
I can't tell you how many times I see that with tech entrepreneurs who are building a service or whatever, like SaaS,
Yes.
whatever. Yeah, you get software.
Or now the new
service.
thing
There
is
it
a SaaS, a software as a service.
Right, the meta service. Yeah, exactly. And I'm in Chicago, and one of the world's #1 tech incubators is 1871, and I was one of the coaches there for 2-3 years. So I would do office hours, and then entrepreneurs would book time to pick my brain and get my view of things. And every single person that came to me would talk about, oh, my code does this, it does that, it does this, it does this. And I couldn't care less, right? Because again, they were telling me features, not benefits. And that just shows up no matter what industry you're in. Everybody focuses on what it is and not the benefits it can get you. And the magician flavor of the sell the sizzle, not the steak, focus on the benefits approach that I like is sell the magic, not the string. If I tell you it's a piece of string, that's not a magic effect at all. It is not interesting. You just go, well, that's about the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But if you witness levitation defying the laws of physics, you're going to remember that for the rest of your life. So yeah, you've got to focus on the impact and the benefits more so than focusing on, well, it's important. It's magical. Well, don't tell me it's magical. Show me magic. That's totally different. Totally different.
Right. And I think most people understand exactly what you just said in general terms. But when it comes to, well, how do you do that for the sales page you're writing for the information product? Or when you're putting together a landing page for your free discovery call or strategy session, how do you describe it so that you're selling the sizzle? How do you describe it so you're focusing on the benefits, not the features? And I think the best tool that there is out there is, working our way back to it, the jobs to be done framework. Write in terms of the jobs that your potential client, potential customer, reader already wants to get done that are undone. For example, when I'm writing the copy for my free strategy session page for authors, I know that there are jobs undone, such as what should I talk about? What should I not talk about? Like what's out of scope for my book? I don't know. How do I figure out the exact subtitle for my book? I don't know. What should my chapter order and structure should be? I don't know. Those are 3 jobs that they haven't gotten done yet that are really important. If they don't get those jobs done, they ain't writing the book. At least it's not going to be any good, or it's going to be all over the place. Or they have the author's writing block paradox, which is you with your vast expertise, open up a Google Doc or Word doc. You're staring at the cursor that's blinking at you, laughing at you. And you realize you can write about everything in the world that you've done, and yet you don't know what to say. It's 5 a.m., then it's 6 a.m., 6:15, you got half a page. And there's so much It feels like you're trying to shove rocks into a little funnel from the kitchen. And it's like, why isn't anything coming out? That's the problem. Working with the certified ghostwriter, the professional who says, show me your rocks, whichever ones will make the shiniest objects that your clients want, that will sell them on buying the book. That's what we're going to talk about. We will work on those. We'll grind them up, so to speak, with a rock metaphor, and that it will allow them to make it through the funnel to the end result, and they will be the right ones.
So is that the result of a lot of phone calls, a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of back and forth emails? What's the process of helping break that down look like?
Yeah, usually, honestly, Jonathan, takes about 60 minutes for me to figure out that unique promise of value and their angle of, or I guess their combination of functional, emotional, and financial value. Through that conversation we have initially, that strategy session I mentioned, that's where we talk about, okay, who are you creating this for? Who are you writing this book for? And then I ask jobs to be done type of questions, right? What can you write about? What do you want to say that they haven't heard before? Well, I know for certain that, and then they tell me something that everyone's heard before. So we have to go past that. So often I'm digging through their library of potential topics for the book in that 60 minutes to find the one or two ideas. We don't always know 100% this is the exact title, but at least we know the angle of approach to their market with what their information product, their book or their course needs to be in order to appeal to the broadest audience with a unique promise of value, a new tool to get the jobs done. Jobs to be done framework, again, is the best way, it's the fastest way to find out what that angle is. And so that's what I take authors through during that 60-minute period. But then, of course, getting the rest of the information out, that's a once-a-week call for an hour. And it usually only takes about an author 2 hours a week to work with the ghostwriter to get their book done for a number of months, 2 hours a week. Most people are like, that's all? Like, I've been doing 20 hours a week myself, writing 4 hours a day, 2 hours at night, 2 hours in the morning, 5 days a week for literally months now. And I haven't gotten anything that I can publish yet. You're telling me 2 hours a week? Yes, I'm telling you 2 hours a week.
To that point, how is it that you crawl inside their head? Right? That's the whole angle of this show is Mind Reader University, teaching people how to think more effectively and kind of get to the point faster. I can only imagine the authors who have been beating their head against the keyboard for months and hours a week with nothing worth putting their name on. And then here you come 2 hours a week and you build this sexy Lamborghini. How do your clients handle that? Because I can imagine it's both ways of, man, I am so happy you created this thing that was better than I could have ever said it. But also I could imagine it could swing the opposite way too of, I've spent my life, my hours and years of my life learning my craft. Then here you come in 2 hours and you understand this well enough to communicate it better than I ever could. What in the world is going on? Do you ever experience kind of those crises of competence?
Early on in my career, I did, but the fact that I've got 55 books behind me, award winners, international bestsellers, like 1,000 copies a day type of sales numbers, people begin to realize, okay, maybe this guy's not smoking mirrors. Maybe he can actually do it, because most ghostwriters don't have that level of experience. And so what they'll often do is edit out the author's voice and say it the way that they want to say it, even to the point of using their own personal pet metaphors, which is a no-no when you're writing for someone else. Or if they don't have any idea of the lay of the land of your industry, what do they do? They go to Wikipedia, they go to Google, and they copy paste and like rewrite it and reword it so it sounds like they know about the industry. But the problem is, what the ghostwriter creates is elementary from your perspective. And if you publish what they write, you look like a noob, a total noob to your potential clients. And it's like, we can't hire this person. Like, I read his book and I knew everything he said, and yet he wrote it as if it was game-changing insight. He must not know much. That's the risk of But not a risk. That's a peril. That's a perilous decision to choose the wrong ghostwriter and allow them to go all the way. Now, in my case, I've also done the independent authors. I've done the big five traditionally published authors as well. And talking to insiders like literary agents, acquisitions editors, the people who decide which topics go inside a book and which don't, and that the publisher is investing a lot of money into an author, and that highest stakes game in town of big five publishing, they ask very different questions for what should go in a book and what shouldn't, because they're thinking, how can we make this book appealing to as many possible human beings as possible across cultures, across time, because they're thinking, how can this thing have a 10-year plus shelf life? So going into every project with those questions, 99% of what an author could tell me in an interview is completely irrelevant to their book. When we first decide what's that one promise that combines your unique functional, emotional, and financial value in there, according to the jobs to be done theory, we then can come up with that unique promise of value that combines all three of them in some way. And then we say, okay, what does it look like to fulfill that promise? That one promise, not 100 promises, one promise, like the 60-minute startup. Not the 60-minute business empire where we try to teach you to start and scale a business and sell it and then start another one. Like that, Ramesh could talk about that because he's a serial entrepreneur and a management consultant and an award-winning podcast host and all those things. But they do not allow him to fulfill that one promise. So the structure of the book is simply, what are all the boxes you have to check? And by boxes, I mean chapters you have to write. Boxes to check, chapters to write, that by reading it will enable the reader to fulfill that promise. Rather, you fulfill that promise for them and they can get the result. And once we have that structure, it's as simple as, tell me one story that goes with this one chapter, rather than give me your body of work, tell me your entire life story. Because no one cares. No one cares. And because we have this extreme constraint of what should go in a book, within that constraint, we have immeasurable creativity and ability to have as much fun with this process as possible. What it also does is open the possibility for 19 more books.
Right, because when you don't throw everything in the kitchen sink in there, you still have a lot left over for the next chicken soup for the soul version number 2, 3, 5, 11. Yeah. Now, part of what I love is going behind the scenes of frustration, because all the rainbows and whiskers and rose petals is great, but the train wrecks are even better to talk about. You've already touched on some of them, which is the frustration of trying to get too much into too small a funnel. But another one that really creeps up is, oh, this is good for everybody. And in the big five publishers, that's great. Make it as broadly appealing as possible. In your approach, it is make it as specific as possible. It's kind of like a sniper versus a shotgun blast. When it is hyper-focused, it's way more effective. But how many of your clients come to you saying, oh, this is for everybody? When you ask, who's your ideal client? And if you said everybody, I know you're not serious. Like, but every single entrepreneur, every single inventor, every single writer says, oh, this is for everybody could benefit, but really it's very specific. So what are some of the other areas or challenges or frustration points that you see from people who get it backwards?
Yeah. I see one big one of getting it backwards I'll mention. I do briefly want to touch on the point of too broad, too narrow, that big concern. Is it too broad of a topic, too narrow of a niche? What does that look like? The answer to walk that line is, again, jobs to be done theory. A hyper-specific promise that involves you reading my book will be able to get a bunch of these high-value jobs done. Ideally, there's a crap ton of people who need to get those very specific jobs done. So the 60-minute startup is only helping you get jobs done that get your first paying customers. It's not teaching you everything. It's not like the entire entrepreneurial journey on up through starting your fifth company, and then raising money for that. it has a very specific promise, but there's something like 500,000 new startups every single month worldwide. Or maybe that's US, maybe that's North America alone, but 500,000 new businesses every single month. All of them need a 60-minute startup. So it's not billions of people, but it's a substantial enough market that that one promise can appeal to. So hyper-specific promise with as many people as possible that want that promise fulfilled in their lives. That's the right angle. And now it turns out that even inside of a specific niche, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people. The only issue that I see often where the audience is too narrow is they pick a specific demographic. Like, I only want this $9 ebook to be for men over 50 who are divorced and have children and live in a Midwestern metropolis with fewer than 1 million people. Okay, maybe a high ticket service to that, but a $9 ebook, you're not going to make a lot of money with that. So there is the concern of how much are each of these people going to be paying you for
Right.
your knowledge. But I'll get to the other issue that I see that I would say, in fact, is a deal breaker for a book. Under promising while over delivering. Think about that for a second. Everyone says you want to under promise and over deliver. Ha, ha, ha. I say over promise and then over deliver inside of a book. Well, what's that mean? Your title and subtitle, which embody your unique promise of value, you have to feel imposter syndrome when you say it out loud. You have to think to yourself, yeah, there's no way I can say that. That's how you know it's good. There's no way I can tell that story inside of my book. That's how you know it's good. I'm never going to say this in a book, Joshua. This isn't going to go out into the public, but that's going out into the public. That has to go in your book. So it must feel like, oh, gee, I don't know if I could say that with a straight face. That's how you know it's good. Now, the over delivery mechanism is going beyond the book. If there are tutorials that you attempt to teach in text inside the book, guess what? You create free content upgrades. Now that you've read how to do this, I have a video on the website. Go to titleofthebook.com, sign up for the free content upgrades, and you'll get an entire suite of trainings and tutorials that show you exactly how to do this. Oh, wow, that's cool. I bought a $20 book and got a $200 course. Awesome. That's what I mean by over delivery of value, leaving no stone unturned to help people take action and get the result.
I love that. The parallel to the performing world, think about going on America's Got Talent. You have your lifetime's worth of experience and your bag of preferred tricks. And then you know this one is the best of the best. But once you do that, there's nowhere else to go up. So, do you hold on to that one for round 3? Or do you put that in round 1? You put it in round 1 because what if what you want to put in the first round isn't amazing enough to warrant 3 more rounds when you do your big one? So you put your big one up front to give yourself the best chance of making it, and then give yourself the problem of, holy hell, how do I over deliver on round 2? That's a much better problem to have than, oh, I went with under promising and under delivering and it didn't get me to round 2. So always put the most up front that you possibly can to force yourself to follow up with more great stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's a big one I see. Well, Joshua, I don't want my book to cover what's already in my online course, because then, like, why would they buy the course? I got to pull back. I got to just, give some tips here and there. Like, no, wrong. And people buy your $9 book and they say, that was everything I already knew and nothing new. And not only was it not new, it wasn't actually useful. I already knew it, but I was thinking maybe they could teach me a better way to implement it. Nope. So guess what's going to happen? They're not going to buy your course. You're not even going to give yourself a chance. Now, what you do need to do, if there is any overlap in material from your book to your course, emphasize how it's going to be helpful. So the book can teach you the system, The course with its community can ensure your follow through and so help you sustain those results that you got from the book. Two different functional promises. The functional promise for the book, here's everything you need to do and help you realize what you don't need to do, which is going to save you a lot of time by no longer worrying about that. It's going to be emotionally valuable to you by giving you the confidence that you're going to do, finally, you have the right answer, you're going to do the right thing, following the right process. The course with its community says now, we are going to answer all of your advanced questions that you have about implementation. There's going to be a community for follow through, email support with me directly, the author and creator of this system, to ensure you follow through, get the results, and keep the results in your life. Two different functional promises, even if it's almost identical content.
I love that. It's kind of like the flight manual versus flight school. The manual
Yeah,
can
that's a way
walk
to
you
put it.
through the checklist. First, you flip this switch. Second, you check this pressure gauge. Third, you do this. It is a very clear, you gotta follow this process, otherwise this plane's not leaving the ground.
Right.
Once you understand the system, well, now I gotta get some flight time. Where do I go to get more comfortable behind the yoke of the jet? Okay, that's what the group is. That's what the ongoing course is. I like that a lot.
Right.
So how do you deal with one of my favorite things to know about people is how you say what it is that you do. Because a big part of my resistance is people calling me a magician. Like I'm not a magician. I grew up doing magic tricks, but I'm a business consultant that helps my clients make millions more dollars with the applied psychology understanding that I have from my background as a magician and a mentalist. But when somebody says magician, you think my uncle who did stupid tricks, I hated that. I hate him. So that's why I am really, really against being introduced as a magician. If I meet people in the street, I'm a business consultant helping people in communication and marketing and just making more money. They go, oh, okay, that makes sense. I've been having this problem with email delivery. I'm like, okay, let's talk about email marketing, right? So how is it that you present yourself at a cocktail party when somebody goes, all right, so Joshua, what do you do? What do you say?
The same way I introduced myself here, as I mentioned, number of books that I've ghostwritten. And then as we went on, I shared a few of my stupendous success stories. The reason why I start with a number of books is because, oh, you're a ghostwriter? Interesting. Probably couldn't write my book, though. My book is special. You seem like you're pretty young. I've got all these years behind me. And to say that I've done that many, and people are like, they just, the eyeballs pop out and the eyebrows jump up. They say, wow, this guy's special. Like, he can't be past 35. How in the flip did he do all that? He must be a machine. And so there's a lot of implication, but just dropping, yeah, I'm working on my 56th, 57th, and 58th books. Like, what? It has the remarkability, persuasion trigger going for it. Like, wow, how do you even get that done? Which leads to follow-up questions. How do you do that? How do you do so many books? Like, what's your process? So you have to know more. So I start with that. I drop that one fact. It's an anecdote, right? But it's one that you cannot just let slide because the people I'm talking to, potential clients, have not even done one. Another thing it has going for me is, well, he's probably written a book in my industry. Maybe even the ones that are on my shelf. Funny enough, Jonathan, I'm finally at the point where I literally have had two clients in the same week. They've got their library behind them, right, on their Zoom, right? And, Josh, I was reading this book this week. I really want to make sure we structure it the way this did because I feel like it's going to work for us. He goes, picks up the book. I'm going to turn to this, this page here, whatever, and it's a book I wrote. And they did not know that before they did that, and then they began talking about it, and like, okay, I see where this is going.
That's fantastic.
Finally, at that point in my career where that's happening.
I love that. I'm pretty sure I could do that again. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's kind of how I present it too. People go, "So what do you do?" Say, "Well, I work with some of my clients are BP, State Farm, United Airlines. They bring me in to talk to their C-suite executives about how to think about technology, communication, marketing. Basically, any place that a human being is involved, I can help." And then they're like, "Wait, what? What do you do?" Yeah, then that your answer should create more interesting questions
Yes.
than end the line of inquiry
Another thing it
for
should do
sure.
is it should be outside of a box that they would otherwise put you in. I could say, "Oh, I'm a copywriter," and they'll think of their cousin who's a copywriter
Oh, you
and
mean
still
the
lives in Mom's
$7
basement.
an hour outsource person that I could hire on Fiverr or Upwork or just outsource to the Philippines? Oh yeah, sure. That's what you are. Okay, got it. I got your box checked. Hmm.
Right. And that first impression is nearly impossible because you are now attached almost permanently to the memories that that person has of other people with that title. You say, "Oh, so I'm a freelance ghostwriter," and what immediately happens? They think of whatever they have associated with the ghostwriter, right? Is like,
Freelance means you can't get hired because you're not good enough for a salary position. Oh, okay, sure.
right,
Yeah, all of that
right.
comes along for the ride.
Yeah, every word like that is a trigger. It really, really is. And that's another thing that I tell all clients. It comes as you would know, it's the principle of hypno writing, where when you're using specific words, it goes past the consciousness, past the subconscious mind into the subconscious, and it pulls out another interpretation of that. Here's an elementary example, but it does map onto other terminology, other vocabulary. Be very careful how you use words like lie. Like, it was lying over there, right? You read that, it has a connotation, lying, as in like literally deceit, right? And there are all sorts of words like that that placed in the wrong place will prevent the proper message from getting across, or at least present an image in someone's mind that makes it very difficult for them to process what's about to happen next. Give you an example of this. And this isn't a specific word, it's an approach that authors take in a book that destroys a reputation instantly. And most people do it. And that's why most books suck. Okay. Here it is. Here it is. The author wants to write the book to help grow their business. Great. They feel like it's very important for me. There it is again. It's very important that I drop a link to buy my product or hire me for my consulting services somewhere inside the book, right? I got to mention my business every 5 pages. Got to say, and if you'd like to hire me too, go over here. That's very important, right? Wrong. No. Here's what you do instead. And the reason why is you come out and just pitch. It's like, I'm reading an advertisement. I paid for this. It's like paying for a premium service like Hulu and there's still ads. You're like, I got screwed. I got gypped, right? Because that's an experience people have already had that does not make them happy with the service provider. The last thing you want to do is make your business associated with a platform where you're paying for streaming services, premium streaming, and they're still hitting you with ads all the time. Like, I thought this is supposed to be ad free. What the hell? You don't want to be the author version of that. Big mistake. What you do instead, let's say it's a topic that is deeply emotional, like I'll pick one related to like health and wellness, for example. I see this a lot. There's a book that I ghost wrote on nutrition-based response to a cancer diagnosis. Very, very popular book. I mean, literally life-changing, also life-saving. But because of confidentiality, I won't go further than that. There's a bunch of books on nutrition and cancer out there. But in this book, the author wanted to make clear that one of the things she's doing is enabling readers to connect with her directly for personalized support. So rather than say, if you'd like more information and work with me directly, ad, smacking you in the face. Doesn't feel good to read that. Instead, we worded it something along the lines of this. Because everybody's needs are unique, and your story your lived experience as unlike any other. I like to be available to you, make myself available to you to help you overcome the specific challenge that you have. Maybe I mentioned it in this book, but not everything in a book applies to you. And you deserve to have the best information possible. If you'd like, I'm available for a free yada, yada, yada session to get you the answers that are going to uniquely enable you to take the next step in your health journey. Here's the link. Totally different experience. Totally different experience. You could do that as a business person, as a completely different industry, but that sort of a here's what's in it for you sort of thing, versus to subconsciously place yourself as into the scam box of, okay, here's businesses that are a scam. You pay for the ad-free version and hit you with an ad. Okay, so you're like that. I do not want to work with you. Versus, wow, this person cares about me personally. They understand the uniqueness of my lived experience, and they're here to help me go beyond the book and work with me directly. And
That
there's
is
nothing
perfect.
like they want to make as much money from me as possible. That's literally true, but it's not persuasively true. Put it that way.
Exactly. Yeah, the first one is here's what you can do for me. You can
Yes.
pay me money for me to tell you what I know. The other
Yes.
one is I am here to help you, and I want to make sure I'm here when you need that help. So this is the best way for me to help you take those next steps and empower you to accomplish what it is that you want. Exactly the same thing, but one is focused on me, the other one is focused on the audience member. And that's my whole shtick too, which is as a mentalist, as a mind reader, my show is only interesting because I'm telling my audience what they already know.
Yeah.
I'm not revealing anything that is unknown to my audience. But the fact that it's me saying what they're thinking makes them feel important. And to me, that's the big difference between a magician is look what I can do, and the mentalist is here's what I know about you. And one of those deals with the most interesting thing on the planet, and that's them. And
Yes.
the second piece is being a mind reader means that you can see exactly what somebody is thinking, what they want, what they need, and then to be able to present what it is that you do in exactly those terms. And then everybody goes, oh, so that's a superhuman skill that you've got to be a superhero to be able to read minds. And then the secret is you ask people, what do you want out of this? What's in it for you? What do you need? They say, oh, I want to save time. Here's the job I need done. And then you just make that happen. Right.
Yes.
But again, the big challenge that most people feel is that, well, nobody tells me what they need. Nobody is honest with me about the jobs they need done. And that's always a function of a lack of trust in the relationship. Because you can't punish honesty. You can't make fun of somebody who's being honest with you. So in the marketing sense of talking business, and I always like to say there's three people that you should be always honest with: your doctor, your lawyer, your marketing consultant, right? Because then you go, all right, I'm going to ask you some tough questions that you're not going to want to answer, but they're essential for understanding the best solution for you. So then when you get to the budget question of, okay, what budget do you have to solve this problem? Well, now they feel that they can trust you because they know you're competent. Now they've got the confidence that you're the best answer to get the job done. Now they're going to be honest with you. And now you know exactly what it is that they're thinking. So yeah, so that's my whole shtick is the secret to being a mind reader is asking people what they think and being trustworthy with the answer. It's not that complicated, but it's incredibly difficult to do, to be able to create that environment where you can just ask people, hey, what you thinking? and they'll tell you.
Right, right. And that's every day as a ghostwriter because otherwise, how is it going to be their book if their thoughts are not on the page?
Yeah. So do they just, how do you keep them on track? Right, of balancing that, here's the lifetime's worth of stories that you could be telling versus here's what's going to be relevant versus not being too specific, again, of the underwater basket weaver, which is kind of what I like. Right, when I'm doing the marketing consulting, people go, oh, have you ever worked with a left-handed goat lye soap maker from South Dakota in this area code before? And you're like, that's way too specific. Like, it doesn't matter. The principles are going to be the same. So how do you deal with that too general, too specific, from knowing what to mine from people's stories?
Yeah, yeah. It's really, it goes in three parts. The first part is that unique promise of value, that you have a new tool to introduce to the marketplace, and here is how readers are going to perceive it as being functionally, emotionally, and financially valuable. Once that piece is in place, we then ask the second question, which is, what do you need to give readers to fulfill that unique promise of value inside of this book? And then out of that, we build the table of contents. Sometimes my outlines for clients' books, 35 pages, extremely detailed. And that's where we log every, okay, so tell me a time to give me an example of when you did this thing that you're now teaching or did it for a client. And it's no longer 1,000 stories they have to think of. They're just thinking, they're like going into their memory and thinking, what's that one time I did this? So rather than tell me all the stories, give me one. And it's instant. Oh, yeah, it was back in 1990, whatever, right? And it's instantly there. And then we tell it, okay, next bullet in the outline, and it's simply going, the outline is like like memory mapping instructions almost, or a GPS to their subconscious mind, where their memories overlap with things readers will pay to also know. That's the key for a book.
That's a great way to put that. I love that. That's a great way to say that, Joshua.
This is the best way to say
Yeah.
it.
So for you, what's the best kind of client who you're going to be able to help the most? In kind of
Yeah.
my terms, from being a marketing consultant, there are the people who have a great idea who haven't even gotten a domain yet, and they're a little too green because their idea hasn't proven to have legs. So great marketing isn't going to solve a busted business idea. So folks who are already established and looking to actively grow their presence or increase some dimension of their business is usually the sweet spot for what I'm doing. So who is it that you're best able to help? Somebody who's never written a book before, who wants to use the book to make a lot of money, and they just don't know how to burn their rocket fuel, and you build it for them? Or do you need to work with somebody who's already an established presence, who's got $10,000 in the bank to fund your couple months worth of working on this? So what's the kind of scope that you're working with?
Yeah, yeah, it has been pretty broad. There have been billionaires and there have been people who, okay, I'm going to get a business loan for this to make it happen. In every case, they have a business, meaning there is already a service or product that they provide. In most cases, it's a service, sometimes a service and like a masterclass or a course, or like a service and a group, but they know that what they've been offering needs to be in a lot more hands. And they want to go beyond one impact, one life at a time. They want to put all of their information, their best, like the highlight reel of their career, so to speak, the best of the best, into their Bible, their unique Bible that is the reference point for their business, for their expertise, for their frameworks for the next 10 to 20 years. That's the sort of book that I ghostwrite. And it's a masterpiece for them that they are proud of. There are some authors that come to me like, I just want a business card. Yeah, I hear a book is a business card. Just give me a business card. Out. I'm not even going to talk to you. There are other people who say, I've got this great book idea, Joshua. Well, tell me about how you use it. Oh, I'm unemployed and, don't have really anything else going on besides playing video games. Out. You're not my person. There are some people who work with those types. Not I, said the Joshua. It's people who they want to break out of where they are. They don't want to go linear. If you look at the experts in any industry, 100% of them are authors. And look at the trajectory of their career. They have that up and down growth. And then at one point in their career, you see the hockey stick of authority, credibility, and perceived expertise. And it's always the moment they became an author. Putting the words author of behind your name is life changing. It's career changing. It's trajectory changing, because now you are literally the person who wrote the book on your area of expertise, your field, your niche. And now you become the go-to person simply by having the Bible that's been written on your industry. So I'm the writer of that Bible.
So do you ever have clients who have tried it themselves and it did exactly about that level of success, and then they come to you with their broken wing and then go, here, heal this. You tear it down, rebuild it, and then just go, we're gonna sunset that thing that you created and say that was kind of a version one, but now this is the Ferrari version. So do you ever have any clients that's what happens?
Very often, very often. It is something that I don't say, okay, we're done. We're going to start over. What I do is I perform what I call an analysis and recommendation. So the analysis is, show me what you got, and I'll tell you how well does it fulfill that unique promise of value. What is the structure like? Is it ordered such that the promise that's there or that could be there, is it actually going to enable the vast majority of human beings that you're going to be putting this in front of be able to extract the value that you're promising and then get results in their lives? And then the third thing that I'm looking for in my analysis is, how is it written? Is it the best way to say it, or is it the worst way to say it that
I
could
love
be said? And so usually it's those three things: the premise itself, that promise of value, and then how the book is structured to get that done. Like, what are the topics and subtopics, examples, and then things like word choice, transitions, style, readability, language tier. Is it written for highly educated consumers or the fifth grade level where it should be? And then I'll say, if this is going to fulfill its potential, here's what you must do. My recommendations are as follows. Most of the time they say, Joshua, I 100% agree. It's too hard. Can I pay you to do it for me, please? Because I'm the first person who has told them in precise language what's wrong with it. They'll share it with friends or family or colleagues or their mentor, and they'll say, yeah, I mean, it was pretty good, but I just wasn't feeling it. How do you know what that means? Or they'll give you useless feedback. By the way, friends and family offer some of the worst critiques of any book, course, business idea, literally anything, because they have too much at stake with you in your relationship to tell you the truth.
That is fantastic. That you have dropped so many knowledge bombs and gems and jewels for people who have the eyes to see them. So for the folks who it's resonating and they go, all right, I gotta break his door down and beg him to work with me, where should they go to present their offerings?
Yeah. Probably the first place, if they'd like to get with me personally, would be the do-it-yourselfers. The types like, okay, just give me your system, download your consciousness into mine, and I'll go make it happen for my own content, from books to blog posts. I want to have a ghost persuader looking over my shoulder doing it. That would be my $99 program, the best way to say it. There's a lot of people who buy that just to test drive my knowledge and say, okay, I only bought that to prove to myself that you're the real deal. I'm ready to hire you now. So there's that. I believe that address is gum.co/bestway. Pretty simple to remember. That's the link to the platform. And then for people who heard about that free session that I offer, where they're like, you mean I could spend 60 minutes with Joshua and know my unique promise of value of my book or my course? Where do I go to do that? That would be entrepreneurswordsmith.com/book, Entrepreneurs Wordsmith being the name of my business. And realsimple.com/book is where you'll be able to book time on my schedule. Although it's been a demanding December from Joshua's time, so the Lisec slots open up for the most part in January.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Well, I'll definitely be putting links to all that in the show notes, all that jazz. And dude, thank you so much for your time, knowledge, experience, and providing a ton of value to folks who will listen to it.
It's been my pleasure, Jonathan. Thank you so much for having me on.
Boom. We'll call that good. And there we go. We'll say crying signal.